So my presentation, my slides are gonna be more focused on practice and what I've been developing. But it's meant to be a bit about my own journey, how I've developed some of the ecotherapy ideas or practices, my journey in terms of how to develop my own relationship to nature. In the UK landscape, coming from the Alps, and something about my reflections really about what is emerging, as I practice and as I observe and learn and reflect and so on, and what I learn from my clients and different clients. And obviously I work with individual parents, some couples and some families. So it's all kind of different. And I feel that I need also the language. I was really connecting with the idea of language, sometimes feeling inadequate. And that's a common experience for me, using English as a second language. So can you hear my accent? Yeah, okay. So it's all good then. So I have a background in social care. And I have set up, since becoming an independent therapist in 2012, this idea to present to the world, and not as an individual, but as a collective, but it's just me, right? But my main clinical work, because of my social work background, is with adopted families. So I do a lot of work with adopted families and children, obviously, that will have been through abuse and neglect and trauma of various nature. And 2 years ago, because I have this strong link with the local authority that sometimes is not as productive or efficient as it can be, I was trying to promote ecotherapy for those families using multi-group family therapy, so bringing families together to create networks, as well as using nature as a more friendly context than a clinical room for these children and their families and parents. So I decided, I said, okay, I'm gonna make it happen elsewhere. And in actual fact, that has been quite an interesting journey for me to go back to my community roots, because in Italy, well, believe it or not, I was an accountant. It's not bad when you have to earn a living as an independent therapist, but certainly wasn't something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. But alongside having to earn a living, I did a lot of youth work, and some of it was in nature and in a small village. And for me, it's been really about going back to my community roots, and maybe a bit of activism on my part, and particularly using nature as a way to offer more affordable and more friendly way of accessing therapy. This is the spirit of my talk, really. I want to share something about my practice as is kind of becoming, and sometimes it's about moments that are almost mind-blowing. What's happening, I don't have words to describe it, but it's just magical sometimes. And it's about being alert and open to these possibilities, and that sense of something new within the same, that might be happening if we are just in a place of listening, tuning in, and being open. But also, I quite like this other image of the universe of becoming, again, something that is emerging, something that nature teaches us all the time, that we are part of this much bigger universe. And there is no inside or outside. It's just how we think about things have somehow fallen into these binary ways of thinking, and trying to step us outside that is really hard, but we can try. So I'm going to invite you now to this place. I want you to just try and go to this place and just see and feel and touch something through your senses about this place when you are an explorer. And you might like this place, but I'm gonna ask you to leave this place and go to this other place. And again, similarly, what do you see? What do you notice? What are your eyes attracted to? What is the temperature? What is the wind like? The time of day? Just immerse yourself in this place and notice your body. What is your body doing? How is it responding to being in this place? And again, I'm gonna gently ask you to leave the place, say goodbye, and just go to this other place. And now I'm going to invite you to choose your own place, a special place in nature. Just imagine being there again, what it's like to be there, what you're noticing. How is your body feeling? What is going through your mind? Why is this place so special to you? So I'm afraid you have to leave this special place. I know I'm a bit mean and harsh in doing that, but hold on to that as well as we go through my slides. So this is where I'm coming from. These are my best memories in the Alps, the Italian Alps, where I'm from. And that is a special place to me, where I try to go every year. But I've done a lot of summer camps, and so I have that familiarity with it, quite a dramatic landscape, and I love it. Um, and that was somehow I would describe it, sense of mystery and sense of exploration and feeling safe in nature, even when I was supposed to be quite scared of maybe exploring on my own. And yeah, and being maybe a child, I developed this kind of bond with nature. I felt I was really at peace when I was in nature, even on my own. And just feeling connected to a much bigger sense of the world and myself, for sure, and feeling very small, like I sometimes feel as well when we talk about these big ecological troubles that we are in. But looking at the stars at night, again, same sense of looking to a bigger future or a bigger thing than myself, and wondering, really wondering where my place was. But certainly nature being quite a spiritual place for me, and still is. And my longing for silence and beauty, today we talked a lot about beauty. So I'm really looking for beauty, certainly when I'm in nature. And it's been a long journey of acclimatizing, from that place to these two places. But this is Sussex, where I landed. I mean, it's beautiful, but certainly didn't have the same meaning for me. So I felt really uprooted for a long time, and I'm still in the process of rerouting. And it feels like growing into a different kind of tree, really. That's how different I feel, but also connecting with the power of nature. So going back to my roots, I feel maybe this irreverence obviously is just in me, and the Milan obviously might ring the bell. And my secret in nature really is about being a bit cheeky, a bit crazy, and certainly colorful. So that sometimes get me into trouble and don't fit very well into places. But it's useful too. I never liked straight lines, but I certainly love circles. And in nature, I don't really see many straight lines, except what we do, when we maybe have the farmers drawing these straight lines. I'm impressed by that. How do they do that with such precision? So this is somehow, I want to invite you to think about the rainbow of your natural skills, meaning that, all the things that you have done in your life that at some point come useful. And that's where I am at the moment in developing my ecotherapy practice. Bits of writing, a bit of drama, crochet under the yew trees, with nuns in the summer, community building, activism, lots of group leading, creative thinking, but also being quite practical. I quite like engaging with ideas and feeding my brain, but also like to be practical and do something. So I'm a doer, really. And soul searching has been always alongside all of this, but I invite you to do your own slides with this. So irreverent, I love the waterfalls, always. I was attracted to waterfalls, and at some point I thought, oh, maybe it's about risk-taking and jumping into the unknown. Yeah, I've done a lot of those kind of jumping. And I think at the moment, that's what I'm kind of noticing and reflecting that my practice is just evolving, and nature is giving me that opportunity. And I'm more focused on being with my clients in nature and being with nature rather than doing. So it feels like a bit of a river flow that is coming out of me. And certainly my spiritual self has come more to the fore. Reconnecting with nature in this way and through the work I do now, and maybe being in touch with my irreverent bit of myself, and maybe developing my wild practice, which feels very freeing, because when I trained, I felt very much I had to become an English therapist, and I hated my accent. I just found the whole trainings like a straitjacket, and it was amazing, to be able to say at some point, I'm a family therapist. That's who I am, and but still kind of on a journey to reclaim some of those experiences and some of those skills, life skills, life experiences. And certainly connecting to my natural roots and feeling and becoming more grounded and rooted in where I am now. So I would say my relationship with nature is one of, feeling quite a sense of comfort and my companion along my journey, life journey, my safe place, my therapist for sure. regenerating, feeling in harmony with myself, my spiritual guide, and certainly becoming my co-therapist in my ecotherapy practice. So this is a place where I run, see, you are familiar, you have been to this place. It's in the Downs, and this is where I've run my first pilot in April 2018 with 4 adopted families in nature. And I had some money from the adoption for the David Campbell Fund to run this day, but it was just one-off, and it was to maybe get some evidence and some feedback, but the local authority just didn't really buy into it. So then I decided to do another project, another day in nature, where 5 different families attended, and it was focused on making arts. Each family will make natural art, and yeah, doing a walk and all of those nice things. So this has become really my special place in UK. This is where I live. I'm so lucky. But if you see the maps, you wouldn't have a clue that this is the same place. Okay, so the map is not the territory. So it's east of Brighton, near the cliffs, and it's got these lovely curvy hills, very different from the peaks of the Alps, of course, but equally beautiful. And certainly has become a special place since the lockdown, because I used to go always to the seaside and drive maybe 10 minutes to go in the best possible beauty spot. But since the lockdown, I said, I'm not going to drive anywhere. I'm going to explore around here. And this has become a place of a sanctuary. And I thought maybe I should start doing ecotherapy here. I had it always, wherever I go, obviously this urge and need to just homemaking because of the sense of being foreigner. So I did the same in this place. So this is my therapy room in the woods that I have created, but it feels a little bit like upside down. Like this is a house on the Brighton seafront that I find amusing. So now I'm gonna take you to the place. So this is the entrance of the woods. Of course, we need to be thinking about therapeutic boundaries in a different way. So the first picture shows the entrance of the woods, and that's where I stop and say, this is our entrance into the woods, is our therapy space. And then I felt the need to just almost, have a place where to feel more of a boundary. And so I pulled some logs and hard work, but it's just something so satisfying, and I felt so much better after that. And of course, I take maybe families in this place, or sometimes it's about walking with them, and I'll go in more details about what kind of things I do. But it is that sense that people also feel more contained sometimes. So it's about responding also. Some children feel more contained rather than in a too open space. But there are different spaces, and that has helped me to maybe think about a bit of a structure to my sessions. So I've got a bit of a beginning where I always invite people to go into the woods, and I can just feel myself just grounding. I feel a response from my body telling me, wow, you are here, you're grounded. So it's about looking out for something. I might ask people to collect things that are connecting in some ways to what they bring on the day. Sometimes it's about collecting an object, a natural object for a family member, and then I ask them to do a bit of a sculpting, but it really varies. There is no rule, but I have this kind of loose structure. So the beginning is just going through the woods, and there is that sense of also chatting with each other. So it's not formal, it's just warming the context really. And then the middle it tends to be like, oh, let's sit down. And there is a lovely spot that I'll show you in another slide, where there is a very open view of the sea and the hills. And it just invites those open heart conversations, I find, and people love it as well. So it's about focusing in then. It's not focusing out, is about focusing in. And then I always want to have a third kind of part to it, which is a bit of an ending, but it's more about what are you taking forward, you know, what are your reflections. And sometimes I ask, if it's a family, I ask family members to pair up and discuss the session and then say something about, a few words about it. So you can see this is the first pictures on the left are the pictures from the woods, and then that is the open space I was talking about, and this is the last on the right is the promenade, the reflecting promenade at the end. That's giving me a bit of a structure. These are some of the things that I offer, but to be honest, they are on my website just to show people that I can offer different things. But I can tell you that pretty much what I tend to do is to embrace that session as a green canvas. These are some of the themes that I can't go into in detail today because of time. But the systemic roots of ecotherapy and that greater Bexon, that, you know, it must have a lot of bells ringing today. But certainly theoretically, my theoretical meadow is very much becoming like a naturalist and a minimalist as well, because I feel that I'm facilitating this creative process, and that is the most important thing. And going back to Barad, it's like being in the moment and trying to connect in the moment with what is emerging. And integrative, because I do use a lot of systemic ideas as well as embodiment and just being with the person that is in front of me. So it made me think about the difference between the doing, because I said that I'm a doer, but actually it's about making therapy. So focusing very much on the creative process and try to stay in that mode when obviously the tendency might be to have a plan. What are we going to do? The techniques and mastering something or using a protocol instead of just staying in that position of learning and observing and tuning into what is emerging and creating a dialogical space. So I see it as being just therapy, nature and clients as one, really. They are all kind of the protagonists of ecotherapy, and certainly my key therapeutic principle that I do think about is nature as a safe context, and how to make it safe when maybe people have fears about a new place. For example, some children might be particularly, or adults as well, particularly anxious about being in a new space, in a new place, or exploring a relational space because of these interactions, and nature as a secure bed. I'm really thinking about the natural space between us, between people, and how nature can really fill the gaps. It's so wonderful to be able to just be with the silence, because nature will fill those gaps, and nature will offer something that words cannot offer. So I don't know, I like to somehow make sense of things in pictures, and that's how but it's still kind of developing some way of making sense of what happens in these sessions. Certainly, I think it's very important to think about and to consider our relationship to nature and clients' relationship to nature's. And of course, as we know, we can hold multiple relationships. So it could be more, in the next slides, is more about some clients wanting nature in the background. So it's like transferring the conversation that you would have in your therapy room outside, and that's fine. That's how some people want it to be. And sometimes, of course, it's a continuum. So on the other side is more about, you know, being more interactive with nature and being led by nature, using natural metaphors to make sense of their own experiences and struggles, and considering both therapists and clients as explorers. So the key ingredients of the therapeutic relationship in nature, I would say, is my relationship, their relationship with nature, a sense of personal safety, and relational safety and risk-taking, of course, and my understanding of the therapeutic goal, because obviously if clients come to us, it's because there is a lot of rubbish that has emerged from the sea, and that's a useful reminder that the sea looks beautiful, but actually there is a lot of pollution, and that's also a metaphor for our lives, when sometimes we need to look at that rubbish, what's in there. And the relationship, the therapeutic relationship in it, and we know is key, and previous experiences of therapy and how they understand ecotherapy as well, what is about. So I have literally run out of time. So maybe I'll go to the end. Maybe some of the things that I do with families are more structured and are based on an activity, because I find that is more containing, but it's still related to maybe an object. So this, for example, this example is creating vibe catchers. It's about picking up emotions in the family from each other. So that's some beautiful examples of the kids' work, and the parents enjoy it more even. And walking and talking in pairs. I've got some funding to offer outdoor family therapy in the community, which I'm developing, and some of the ways to work with children creatively, about thinking about relationships, worries. And I suppose I want to share this to end, which is a painting that I have done myself. I'm not an artist at all, but I was leading a group of professionals, family therapists mostly, on painting and painting different colors, and it was the week of the blue, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna just have a nice painting of the oceans and these beautiful waves. And then it came this plastic that was just sitting in my room, and I had to incorporate it, but it was just disturbing. And but that's what we're dealing with. So can't just look at the sea and not considering that there is plastic in there that needs to be transformed somehow. So maybe I'll stop here.